What's up guys, this is Maliss and welcome to the OCG metagame breakdown number 1. This time we got 222 top performing decks from 50 tournaments during the span of like a week, so it's not that much, but it's still enough for us to analyze. And yes, I know I'm late, my bad. I'm like 4 days late actually. This is October 12 and today we're 16. Anyways, before we go any further, you already know the drill. Smash the like and subscribe button and also watch this video until the end. Alright, so first things first, Ryzeal is the #1 best deck by a significant margin. It's at 40.6% and last time it was at 34.4%. So every single time it just keeps going up and up and up. Kind of forgot where it was before. Oh my god, if I can actually find it. It was at 19.5. Yeah, okay, so the ban list did kind of change things a little bit. It did make the Ryzeal deck a little less consistent because I think Bonfire is at 1 or 2 or something, I don't know, but it doesn't really matter too much. I think it's at 1. I think it was at 2 before. It doesn't really matter too much because they do have more consistency cards, so you can still play up to like 16 starters or something in a 40 card deck, and you can play Desires and whatever else that you want that can get you to your starters, so it's really not too bad. Second best deck is Maliss. Now we've got Voice's Voice. Yeah, it makes sense that it's the third best deck. It's because it's a safe deck to play into a Molchemy 4 hours format, but it does suck into Shifter, so I don't know. And also it doesn't lose to Artifact Lancia. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I guess Saphira still kind of loses to it, but it's not like the end of the world. Nothing else really loses to it, so I think Voice's Voice is a very good meta call in a slower format. But like in a combo heavy format with like the Ubel and stuff, you just get overwhelmed and you get OTK'd at the speed of light. But yeah, Voice's Voice, it will always be the kind of deck that you will be seeing when the best decks are mid-range decks instead of hardcore combo decks. Anyways, Labyrinth, again same exact thing. Labyrinth is very good in slow formats, always the best trap deck that you can play out there. Memento, that is a combo deck that can grind, because the field spell and everything, all of your monsters, they always float when they die, so you always have a lot of recursion, which I think is cool. So I think Memento is nice, and also is the best combo deck into Molchemy 4 hours. You can make a gigantic board by only giving 2 draws to your opponents, which I think is very respectable. Okay, Despia, I don't understand why this deck is still a thing. 10 by Dragon, very disappointing to see it this low, because I think 10 by should be in like the top 3 best decks. Even with like the limitation, I kind of forgot what happened exactly. I think it was Kaimin. Oh, actually, yeah, they're not gonna say it here. Maybe Kaimin to 2, Kaimin to 1, something like that. Yeah, in that case, it kind of does hurt. Or Chandra to 1. I completely forgot, but whatever. It's not like it's just the field spell. Now it's a lot of things that are at 1. So yeah, that's annoying. Anyway, Centurion. Okay, that's another very good deck that we've even seen in the TCG recently do well, because it is a very good meta call against 10 by Dragon. Very good in slow formats again. And it can play like 17 plus hand traps, which is insanity. Ubel, okay, I also don't understand why this deck is still being played in the OCG. Honestly, I would just give up in the deck. I don't really believe in it anymore. Blue Eyes, okay, yeah, this is not shocking, but also shocking. It's not shocking to see it here, but it is shocking to see it this low, because honestly, I think the new support is extremely good. It made the deck super self-sufficient. Like, there's so many one-card combos that you can play like 18 hand traps in a 40-card deck and still have a super consistent deck. So I think Blue Eyes is a great meta call, depending on how you play it. I don't think it's good as a combo deck. If you're playing like 60-card pile deck of Blue Eyes, and you only have like 15 starters in a 60-card deck, it makes no sense. But if you're playing a 40-card deck with 15 starters, that is a 92% chance of drawing your starter, with like, I don't know, like a 97% chance of drawing a hand trap, something like that, or 96%, which is a lot. I mean, it's a big deal, and you can also draw multiple hand traps, and you can beat multiple hand traps if you have more than one starter. So I think Blue Eyes is a great deck into a slower format again, but in a fast format, I don't think Blue Eyes has the ceiling level to really keep up with everything else, unless you play like a weird anti-meta Blue Eyes deck, but I don't really know how that would be possible with only like 1 scale drain. I don't know. It also loses to like Rivalry. Does it lose to There Can Be One? If you have 1 spellcaster and 1 dragon, you can't make another dragon. Yeah, so it does lose pretty much all the floodgates except Goes and Match. Anyways, Dragon Link. Yes, this is a weird deck. It doesn't really have too much going for it other than like the Metal Morph engine that might be nice in it. Yeah, maybe some other things. Atlantean Mermail, yes, whatever. Snake Eye Azamina. This deck sucks, honestly, in the OCG. Stop playing it. Ritual Beast, okay. Very good Shifter deck, but Shifter is being played in the 2 best decks. Like, one of the big edges that the Shifter decks had before is no longer a thing, because Shifter now, you almost don't even want to main deck it anymore. As a matter of fact, this is something that we will be seeing with our own eyes very soon. It's absolutely crazy. Just because you can play a broken card doesn't necessarily mean you should. Anyway, Sky Striker, shoutouts to Ryan Yu, getting 2nd place at YCS Niagara with this. I don't understand how that was possible, but whatever. White Forest, okay. Fire King, yeah, sure, whatever. Goblin Biker, ooh, okay, cool. I mean, there's new support. I mean, there's a new Xyz monster, so hopefully that would help out a little bit. Phantom Knight, Ancient Gear, Rescue Ace, Unchained, Ryzeal, Monica, Tyr, Gimmick Puppet, Medolce, Mathmech, Adagnister, Marincess, Melodious, Valiance, Mekanko, Infernoble Knight, Kotalker, Rika. Yes, okay. With the Primordial Engine. So I think the ratio might be like 1 continuous spell or 3 quickly spells to special from deck. I'm not 100% sure. Kind of worse than Unexpected Die, because you do have to pay 2,000 life points, so I don't know, but whatever. Purely, okay, Shark, Vanquish Soul, and Sprite. Alright, so what is Ryzeal doing in order to adapt themselves to the, I guess, to the newer best decks, whatever? Well, they are playing number 1 C102 Archfiend Seraph, so that is the rank 5 light monster. That's also a fairy, so you can search your deck for Artifact Lancia or Artifact Scythe by utilizing 7 Tachyon. In case you don't know what that card does, you reveal one of your number monsters that is between 101 and 107 included, and then you search your deck for a monster with the same level as the rank of the monster that you revealed, and with the same type or attribute, one or the other, or both, whatever, it's up to you. So if you're revealing a rank 5 light, you can search a level 5 light, or obviously a rank 5 fairy, you can search a level 5 fairy. Now, in the case of the artifacts, they're both fairies and light, and they're level 5. So that's the reason why you're playing a rank 5 and a rank 4 deck. You're not trying to summon this card, and you're also not trying to send it with your X Ryzeal. You're really just trying to reveal it for your 7 Tachyon, this card right here, the purple card, in order to search these cards right here. And now you might be wondering, why would you want to be searching Artifact Scythe? And the reason for that is because they're summoning Tornado Dragons so that they can destroy their Artifact Scythe and prevent the opponent from special summoning from the extra deck. So this is kind of like a soft lock when you have too many engine cards. You can do something that lingers, which kind of translates to searching Dimensional Barrier, which is really broken, but it does lose out to Forbidden Droplet, which is one of the reasons why this card is now seeing played in the main deck. And also, I guess it loses to Ghostmourne and Moonlit Chill, which nobody is playing the OCG, which I find to be very interesting, because Mourner in the OCG is unfair. It is really a broken card since it is a quick effect, or at least the way it behaves, whereas in the TCG, it is a trigger effect. So if your opponent summons like a monster with an optional effect on your turn, it'll have to be in Chainlink 2, whereas your Mourner will be in Chainlink 1, so your opponent's monster will resolve, and your Mourner will basically be doing nothing at all. Anyways, here we are seeing a very standard, very boring list. Honestly, nothing special here. 3 Mochimi Foros in the main deck, which I find to be a little concerning considering the fact that this deck loses more to Perolia, I think. But it really does depend. Every single monster in your deck, you really have to summon it from the hand, so you're always guaranteeing your opponent 1 to maybe 2 draws sometimes. But if you go normal summon Ice Ryzeal, that's summoned straight away from the deck, so you're only giving 1 draw to Perolia. However, you are giving 2 draws to Foros if you make a rank 4, and potentially more if you want to make multiple Xyz monsters. So I really do understand the logic behind playing the Foros instead, but one thing that you can do is you can dedicate, you can commit to only playing like 2 Foros, 2 Perolia, instead of doing like 3-0, or like 1-1, or 1-2, or 2-1, whatever. It really is up to you and also how you think the best decks are playing. But yeah, this deck, let's just count the amount of starters and hand shops. So 3, 6, 8, 11, 13, 16 hand shops. With how many other kind of board breakers and cards that protect you from hand shops? 2 Talent, 2 Droplet, 2 Called By, and a Crossout. So that's 3, 5, 7. 7 plus 16, that is 23 non-engine in a 40-card deck. How many starters do you have? 3, 6, 9, 12, 13. You have 13 starters in your 40-card deck. So let's do this. You've got 13 starters in 40 cards. That is an 87.73% chance of drawing one of your starters. I believe that Pax deck list at YCS Niagara, he was playing a 41-card Centurion deck, and he had 13 starters as well. So that was like an 86.89% chance for him to draw one of his starters. That is not good enough for me. So in the TCG, if we have got 7 Tachyon, you're going to be pretty much forced to play the other card that can search the 7 Tachyon, unfortunately. And if you draw both, I mean, you can just place it back on the bottom of the deck, so it really doesn't change that too much. But also, we still have 3 Bonfires, so that's going to be even more starters for you. And you're going to have to maybe not play triple Tactic Talent or something like that. Very boring, very cookie cutter. There's honestly nothing that's super interesting here. I guess the choice of rank 4 sometimes, I guess, can be kind of spicy. But apart from that, it just feels underwhelming. It's the kind of deck that if I were to playtest right now, I would almost believe that it's like one of the weaker decks this game has ever seen, considering the fact that it's 40.6% of the representation, and this deck is above Memento, above Tenpai, above Yubel, above decks that can make billions of interruptions, and it doesn't matter because, again, just to clarify things up, the meta right now in the OCG, it's not, the best decks are not determined by how powerful they are, by how high their ceiling are, but rather how high their floor is. So it doesn't matter if you can make 10 negates because there's so many maxis running around that you're not really trying to just skip your turn whenever you get hit by one of these hand traps. Instead of that, you want to guarantee something that is at least somewhat manageable every single time you do get hit by those hand traps, because hand traps, there's kind of like a certain limit to their effectiveness when you get to a certain point. Like, you can draw 5 hand traps, and if your opponent can still make like a detonator, for example, through those hand traps, you're gonna feel completely defenseless, unless one of those hand traps is like an imperm that you can at least use to negate it, and then you start playing from there. But your opponent could also have like an aggregator underneath, so that even if you negate it, your opponent can still detach material for cost, and then still negate one of your cards. So the deck is still very much resilient to hand traps, very resilient to board breakers if you know how to play it correctly. Honestly, there's a lot going for this deck, but on the surface, I can really understand why people can look at it and just feel like it's complete trash. Again, we've transitioned from a combo-heavy format to a mid-range format at the middle of nowhere. So yeah, the change might be drastic for some, but yeah, it's just a matter of time, I think, before people adapt. And in the OCG, they're already adapting themselves. That's the reason why Voice is doing so well, because people understand that the format slowed down so much that they can't play slow decks. But yeah, anyways, by the way, Dimensional Barrier, the barrier, but also Evenly Matched is no longer seeing too much play because Artifact Lancia is now a staple. And also because of the fact that Artifact Lancia is very popular, people are also cutting Pot of Desires from their deck, because before that, we had a lot of Pot of Desires running around. Desires loses to Lancia, and Evenly Matched loses to Lancia. And Lancia is extremely good against the second best deck of the OCG, which is Maliss. And Lancia, again, is a card that you'd rather shotgun on standby phase in order to also mitigate the risk of losing to triple tactic talent. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Anyways, there is something I wanted to mention about Maliss. It's the fact that they just got the World Premiere Pack, which is the set that introduces a lot of TCG exclusives. This is mentioned here, by the way. And one of those cards is Hagar Lizardos. It is a card that you have most likely already seen in a bunch of decks in the TCG, possibly in the Melodious deck, because the goal is to banish yourself and then draw one card. Now you got like no non-Melodious monster, you don't clog up the extra monster zone anymore. It's not too bad. There's a lot of like nice applications for this card. It's not a card where you really do insane things, but the fact that you can banish like monsters from your graveyard is randomly really good in the Maliss deck. So there's a lot of like nice, cute little combos that aren't broken, that you can still do in the deck that, I guess, allow you to like preserve your second SPLO, I mean your one and only SPLO Knight, because back then you would have to SP yourself in order to banish the Maliss monsters in the graveyard in order to start playing the game. Now that is no longer the case. So yeah, this deck is really cool. There's a lot of just nice things that you can do overall. And in case you're wondering which one is the most consistent between Maliss and Ryzeal, you got 3 White Rabbit, 3 Dormouse, so these cards are 1-card starters. The Cheshire Cat or whatever, that doesn't do anything on its own. And then we've got the Field Spell, which is a semi 1-card starter. Gold Sark, also a semi 1-card starter. So we've got 6, 9, 11. Yeah, that's it. 11 real starters. And then apart from that, you're really just playing with a bunch of different cards in your hand, and you're really trying to make it work. So you can go, for example, Allure, banish like Cheshire Cat, and then normal summon a monster. I don't know, go into your Cybers package, whatever. Or you can go normal summon Dotscaper and then make like a Lingrabo and then Splash Mage, revive back, and then make like a Terahertz, which is not too bad. I mean, it's still 2 interruptions off of 1 Dotscaper. It's really not too bad. I mean, Cybers decks, they're really good at just doing a lot with very little, but you should still get to that point where you can even get those monsters in rotation, which is very difficult to achieve when you're barely playing any consistency cards and you're playing almost too many non-engine cards. Let's count the amount of non-engine cards that you can play here, because in Ryzeal we counted 16 hand traps and 17 spell cards, board breakers, anti-hand trap cards. So in here we've got 2 shifters, 3 bestials, so that's 5, 1 Mochami Foros, which is especially a cross-out target, so that's 6, and then 3 Ash, 9, 11, 14, 17, so 17 hand traps with how many spells this time? So 2 called by cross-out talent, so that's 4, and then we also play some other consistency cards, the Allure of Darkness, I guess, and Gold Sark, the Field Spell, etc. So yeah, decent amount of hand traps, a not super decent amount of starters. Honestly, if I were to play this deck, I would play it in such a different deck, or I would play it as a meta call or something. But to be fair, I don't really have enough experience with the format as of yet, so I think I'm gonna have to start looking into a lot of different builds for this deck. First reflex that I had when reading these cards for the first time was, I can play this in the trap-heavy version of the deck, almost like Labyrinth 2.0, and it could work out. And maybe that is true. Maybe you can play the Maliss deck as a trap-heavy deck, but Honestly, I'm not sure as of yet. Anyways, in the side deck, we're still seeing cards like Ultimate Slayer, which is very good against this deck, but now they're playing like Anti-Spell and Solemn Judgment, so that kind of beats Ultimate Slayer a little bit. I mean, Anti-Spell definitely does, but Solemn Judgment, it still trades a little poorly into Ultimate Slayer because you still send your aggregator for cost, and then you beat your opponent's Solemn Judgment, and you negate the Dreadnator. So it's still a win, a big win for you. And obviously with cards like Triple Tactic Thrust, you can search it, or you can search your Feather Duster. And going first, you can search Simul Archfiends, which is insanity against a Link Turbo deck. Like, really good. This is the best floodgate against this deck. If you can search this card by Foolishing Archfiend High-Risk with like Aerial Eater or something, you are going to be in a very good position. And this might be one of the reasons why Yubel is now better, because they got the World Premiere Pack. So there is now the Necroquay Princess as well as Aerial Eater, which made all the Fiendsmith-based strategies that much better. And Yubel is one of the decks that utilizes the Fiendsmith engine the best out of everyone, just because even without Lacrimosa and Beatrice, you can still go into Aerial Eater and then send whatever you need in order to get your combos going. And I think Simul Archfiends is one of the floodgates that we'll be seeing even more this format. That is my prediction, but I think it's gonna work out that way. Anyways, that's all I had really for this breakdown. There's not that much that I had to cover. It's really just 2 decks, but the real question was, how are people adapting themselves to the new format? And it really is the fact that we're seeing like less Molchemy cards overall. Because even when it comes to like Furos, I've seen so many decklists that weren't even playing this card, or were maybe playing like 2 copies or 1 copies, and in Maliss we're only seeing 1 because, you know, when you're playing way too many hand traps, you're almost like forcing your opponent to like pass turn, and it might just not be like the best. And also this card is not great against Ryzeal, and it's also not the best against this deck because it's really easy for this deck to just play like super defensively, play with trap cards instead, and just say like, you know what, go ahead, pass turn. Anyways, that's all I had for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.